All right, everybody, welcome back to the A to Z Sports Film Room channel. Joe DeLeone, Ryan Roberts. We're here to talk about 2026 NFL Draft prospects. Today, we're going to be digging into some of the big names that you need to know for the defensive line for this upcoming class. Before we get into it, please drop a comment. Let us know thoughts, questions, whatever it is about the 2026 NFL Draft. We're going to get to as many questions and comments as possible on the YouTube stream. As we always do, we prioritize YouTube over Twitter, and anyone who sends in a super chat, we will, of course, answer those questions first. And please hit that like button on the video to help us get a little bit more reach. All right, Ryan, how you doing?
Good, man. We're a little scrambled today, to be honest. It's a busy day for both of us, you know what I mean? But we roll with the punches, man. We are content machines, Joseph. Absolute machines. Nobody can stop us. Rack, chill out in the chat. I see your comments already. Okay, my friend. We were literally 2 minutes late, and actually, typically the standard is for people to start a couple minutes late because they want the chat to populate ultimately, right? So we're actually not late, Rack. You're just a little bit early. Okay.
Of course we're dealing. Why does your video look like that?
Look like what?
Do you see what's happening on the screen?
What is happening on the screen?
You're not. Oh, now you're back. You're like. I'm not going to waste time explaining it. StreamYard is being a mess today. I'm trying to maintain my patience with this awful platform. StreamYard, you stink. I've complained to you idiots multiple times. The worst streaming platform, but it's the only one, so we're stuck with it. I want to talk, though. Obviously, we're here to talk about this 2026 defensive line class. Let's start talking about some of the defensive tackles. We recorded a Peter Woods video. I don't want to go like too in depth on Peter Woods, but who are some of the early defensive tackle names that catch your attention?
Well, I opened up YouTube on my phone to see what you were talking about. No, I see what you're talking about. That was very strange.
Yes.
Very strange that I was punched out like that. Yeah, where do you want to start, Joe? I mean, right? Do we want to start with the top names? I mean, we could start with Peter Woods, obviously, who 6'2", 310, 315 pound, absolute just bowling ball of chaos that I hope the Clemson Tigers and defensive coordinator I almost called him Dennis Allen. Tom Allen is not going to utilize him on the edge like the previous defense coordinator did in Wes Goodwin. Absolute train wreck. Just absolute horribly use of that really talented defensive line. Here's a question for you to start the conversation. We can go into some deeper names here in a second. I'll pull up my list it's expanding quickly. Caleb Banks, Peter Woods, your cup of tea currently is who? And of course, Caleb Banks is the defensive tackle out of Florida, for people that don't know.
I think you know the answer to this question. That my cup of tea is, well, it's Caleb Banks. The taller, longer, more explosive defensive lineman are the ones that I'm...
Is he more explosive?
I think that he is.
I think it's a different type.
Well, he's 330 pounds, the level of explosive that he is
probably not
for that size.
But here's the point, though. We're talking about like density to height and length, right? Who is technically a denser player? Peter Woods at 315 at 6'2", or a 325-pound Caleb Banks at 6'5 plus? You know what I mean? Like the density is different. Like we're talking about body type stuff here for a second. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Just a conversation.
I think that there's a lot more that can be done with Caleb Banks. Like I think that he could play head up as a nose. He could play as a one tech. He can move out to it. He could play any alignment, I think, in any front, because he's got the power and he's also got the flexibility to become a really good pass rusher. He right now I think still is my highest graded prospect in this class. I don't have anyone who's in the blue chip category. I don't think I'm gonna have anybody who's in the blue chip category, but Banks's talent is the highest. I like Peter Woods. I actually have another defensive tackle ahead of Peter Woods.
Who?
And Peter Woods is number 3 for me. I watched Christian Miller this morning. I was obsessed with Christian Miller, the Georgia defensive tackle. What? No, wait. Why don't you like Christian Miller? What's your problem with Christian Miller?
I don't actually have a problem with Christian Miller, but he's not better than Peter Woods. What do we? If Peter Woods played in the SEC,
the same
you
would
not be throwing this garbage out to the universe.
Stop. I have no SEC bias. I am a Notre Dame fan. There is nothing to do with SEC that comes into this. He's got a bigger, longer frame. I saw a player who had really good flexibility, but was awesome against the run. Like he anchors so well at the line of scrimmage and tracks down the football. He makes so many plays while getting extension and wrapping up and grabbing whoever is running in his path. There is a way for me with him that I can see he goes on from being a really good run defender to also being a disruptive pass rusher because he's got that bend. He just needs to work on his hands a little bit more.
I don't even know what to say anymore. I don't even know what to
say. Have you watched Christian Miller?
Yes, I've watched the Georgia defense. Yes, I've watched Christian Miller. I've watched who else they have coming back. Stackhouse is gone. Brinson is gone. Number 32, the Chambliss kid is gone. CJ Allen obviously is back. The Everett kid is back. Who else am I missing? There's a couple others I think are returning, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, they're bringing back most of the unit, but
KJ Bolden was a true freshman last year, so obviously he's back. But I'm just thinking about the just players that are returning in 2020. I like the building blocks of Christian Miller. I mean, what is he like 6 foot? He's listed a lot like 6'4", 310, somewhere in that ballpark, right? Like he's a versatile player, obviously, right? Like he can play even, odd, and he's got more length than Peter Woods. I just think I'm not saying you're missing the boat with Peter Woods. Like I'm not, because I think that you have a first round grade on Peter Woods, don't you? Or no?
I have very few first round grades in this class. I have early second. I've got like I've watched.
So you have a first round grade on Christian Miller? Do you have a first round grade on Christian
No,
Miller?
I have an early second on Christian Miller as well.
Okay.
So I have the same grade, but I ranked Christian Miller slightly higher than Peter Woods. My only issue, here's my only pause with Peter Woods and where there's a slight separation. I don't think Peter Woods is very long, so I question what is he going to do as a pass rusher with short arms that he has.
And you think Christian Miller's going to be more of a pass rusher?
I think that he's got better length, and I think that he just doesn't. There's a difference in
what's the difference
technique.
In the body
Wait.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well,
sorry.
Christian Miller is rotating and is not on the field that often because Georgia is so deep, and dude, he's on the field just as much as Michael Williams was, and all these other guys that you just named that are premier players. They're a really deep group, and they like to bring in guys for specific fronts, specific situations. They have different defensive line groups. It is a true luxury if you're a team and you can do what they do. So his pass rush nuance is not going to be as long as Peter Woods, who has played a lot more. He's on the field way more often than Christian Miller is. I see where Christian Miller could become with being eventually becoming a better pass rusher.
So here's my major question though. You were very high on Mason Graham, right? Like in the end there in this past class. What is the difference in body type between Mason Graham and Peter Woods? What is the difference?
I thought that Mason Graham was a bit more flexible than Peter Woods was.
Huh,
I did,
man.
yeah. Okay. Do you have similar grades to what you had on Mason Graham and Peter Woods?
He's not quite the same prospect as Mason Graham right now, but I could see a world where he is better? Question mark? Like, yeah, I could see that world. Don't you think he's a little more explosive than Mason Graham is?
No.
Wow.
No.
Man, we see Peter Woods a little differently. It's interesting. Okay.
What is I'm getting so pissed off at StreamYard. It's doing the
punched us out?
It's doing the it's you. It's doing it to you. This is so unbelievably such an awful platform. StreamYard.
Interesting. It did just.
I don't know if it's.
What the heck?
I don't know if there's something wrong with your camera. I don't know if is it properly hooked up?
Yeah. I mean, I could maneuver as you're talking on the next topic or something. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna bring up one of the questions. I'm gonna pull you out. Can you unplug and plug your camera back in because
you got
obviously getting distracted. Okay. While we're waiting for Ryan to fix his camera, you already look like you're better now, so we're good. You didn't even have to do anything.
I didn't touch anything. This is insane. Okay. Absolutely insane. Okay.
We have a first question.
I am sending a strongly worded letter to StreamYard after this.
I've done it already. I've done it already multiple times. They don't give a shit. They have automated responses. It is an awful company. It's run by very dumb, lazy people. So it's not worth the time. I have had many of exchanges with them. Okay. We talk about these defensive tackles in the chat. Ask us questions about this 2026 draft. Andy asked us though, how high are y'all on Dante Corleone? He's been a bit of an odd player. I'm going to lose my mind at this camera situation. What
is it happening again? It happened again?
We might have to end the stream. This is extremely distracting. I'm going to remove you for 1 second. Unplug it, plug it back in. And if it does one more time, we got to end the stream because clearly StreamYard gave us an error message at the beginning. Clearly something wrong on their end because this is beyond an issue. I'm going to remove you and then add yourself back in when you're good. Dante Corleone is a really interesting name to talk about because for 3 straight cycles now, he has been brought up as a defensive tackle prospect and one that could go in the top 100. I know that he was dealing with, I think it was a heart issue. He had some blood clot issue. He had a serious medical issue that impacted his availability last year. And it kind of resulted in why he's come back and he's played so much college football. It's kind of not the same, but like Andrew Catalon was a little bit of the same bit where I feel like every cycle we've talked about him and now he's finally coming out and this is now likely his last year. He's one of these guys though that fits the prototype of like super low to the ground, super compact, does a fantastic job of playing and winning with leverage and generates force really quickly. We were talking about Dante Corleone.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on him?
I'm not messing with my background, my green screen, because it's being
fine.
wonky. So we're gonna figure that out later. Dante Corleone, I liked his 2023 film a lot better than his 2024 film. Now there is some context there, obviously. I had more of I think I had either a top 75 or top 50 grade on him like last summer, right? Like going into the 2024 season. And I heard you talking about it a little bit. He did have the blood clot issue in his lungs. Did clear up. Haven't heard anything about it coming back. So it's a similar thing to remember when Trey Smith was coming out of Tennessee.
Yes.
It was kind of the similar thing there. I think you mentioned Jalen Catalon. His name's not Andrew Catalon. I heard that one.
Andrew Catalon is a CBS Sports play-by-play.
Yes.
He went to my high school. I don't know why I mixed that up, but yes, Jalen Catalon is what I meant to say. The safety who played at Arkansas, Texas, and now UNLV. No, now he's at Missouri? No, where is he now?
UNLV. I thought he was at UNLV. No? Is he somewhere now again?
Keep going back to Dante Corleone. I'm going to look this up.
Okay, you do that. No, yeah, you're right. He transferred somewhere else. I don't know where he is now, but he was at UNLV. But I forget where he is now. Who cares? It doesn't matter. He's not a prospect.
He's at Missouri.
That's insane, dude. What are we doing? What like why are we doing this? I just don't understand. But so to circle back though to Dante Corleone, whose nickname's the Godfather, by the way, absolutely fantastic. Yes. Corleone is definitely a better last name than DeLeone as well.
All right.
Elite last name.
DeLeone's actually Italian. That Corleone's not.
Oh, he might be. You don't know. You don't know anymore. You're 25. You have no idea. So I regraded him this offseason, Joe. I have a top 150 on him now based on his last year's film. So it just wasn't as good as 2 years ago. I'm hoping that is an issue of blood clots, weird off season training. Like, yeah, I hope he's able to get back to that guy because I do think that he was a very good football player prior to 2024. Now he was still good in 2024, but he was not quite the same caliber of player that I think he was the 2 years prior. So yes. Can I throw out a couple names for you? You ready for these?
Go for it.
Here is, I'm making sure I have my list pulled up. Okay. The most underrated player of the 2026 class in terms of nobody's going to talk about him. He's going to go higher than people think. And I'm not saying he's going to be a first round pick, but he's going to go higher than people think. And he's going to play in the NFL forever. Okay. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Tim Keenan, who was the defensive tackle from Alabama. That guy is just going to be a starting nose tackle in the NFL for like 8 to 10 years. And no one's ever going to talk about it, but he's just going to be a good player, man. That kid is dense as hell, super strong, pretty decent first step as well. Like he gets up to top gear really quickly. Like he has a little bit of a runway to him in terms of athleticism, but like that kid is playing football and is on the football field to be a dense physical point of attack player. So I love Tim Keenan. I think that he might end up going top 100, just being a starting nose tackle in the NFL. No one's going to talk about him and he's just going to be a starter forever in the NFL. That's what I think about Keenan.
I mean, we can easily always pinpoint a Nick Saban recruited defensive tackle. Obviously, we can't do that for much longer, but Keenan and another guy who was in a crowded room is an easy one to turn to. DeMonte Capehart is another guy who's a massive house of a human being who, just well-recruited group. If he's getting on the field at Clemson, it usually is a very positive sign. Who's the last guy that you had?
Well, I mean, I have a couple more if we want to roll a few, but the one guy
Okay.
that I want to mention, because I am very high on this player, if he becomes a more consistent version of himself, I love Dominic Orange, the nose tackle out of Iowa State. I
You've talked about
love
him a
Dominic
million times
Orange,
over. I
dude.
know that you're a
Woo,
big
dude.
Dominic Orange fan.
He is 6'4", 325 pounds, Joe. When he digs in, you can't move him at the point of attack, and his explosiveness for his size is silly, man. He's very linear, so he's just going to be a nose. He's not a three tech, like he's not crazy flexible, but in a straight line, point of attack, physical, kind of what you were talking about, Demonte Capehart. He's going to fill a similar role in a defense, but I really like Dominic Orange a lot, man. I think that kid is going to be a high level run defender in the NFL. Maybe he never becomes a all around player, because I don't think that he necessarily has high pass rush impact, but I do think that he has tackle for loss impact. Like, I think he can be a penetration player. I really like Dominic Orange.
I remember we watched him last year when we watched the Iowa film, and he popped all over it. He's somebody who is on my short list of defensive tackles that I'm planning to get to. We did have Andy brought up, again, anybody in the chat, send us questions. Yep. We're answering listener questions. We've got a pretty good discussion here going on defensive tackles. We're going to talk a little bit edge in a bit as well. But he brought up for nose tackles, I really liked Lee Hunter now at Texas Tech. Do you have? I don't have anything on Lee Hunter. Do you have anything on him?
No, Lee's cool. He was at Auburn originally. He was at UCF the last couple years. He's another like densely built nose tackle. He's listed at like 6'4", 325 by UCF, and like there was no way he was actually 325. He's probably more like 335 plus. Like, he's just this massive kid. He almost entered the 2025 NFL draft, but he opted for the portal. He ended up at Texas Tech. He got a really nice payday from Texas Tech,
I'm sure,
to play for the Red Raiders. So he's a big physical kid. I actually think he has decent short area explosiveness. Like, it's not bad. I don't think it's quite on the level of like a Dominic Orange, but like, he's a good player. I just think that he needs to play with a lot better base consistently. I think he plays high too often. I do think that Lee Hunter's, like, he needs a little bit more of, like, it's not a durability thing in terms of injury, but like, he needs to be in better shape overall. Like, I think he needs to be more consistent on a snap to snap basis, but like, his building blocks are pretty cool.
I got to watch him. I think, dude, there is, and so this kind of lines into Brian Mafia asked us thoughts on the defensive tackle class as a whole.
I like it.
This class is like very unexpectedly and pleasantly very deep. As I've started to watch more and more of these guys, I'm not super far into the defensive tackle class, but like as I go down and I'm kind of creating like a short list, I try to watch at least 15 guys at each position. And then if there's more players I need to get to before we're doing our position ranking summer scouting videos really soon. That's going to be happening likely starting in July when we're going to start doing those. As I'm starting to prepare and I'm putting together a list of guys I want to watch, I keep finding more and more players that are worthy of consideration. I don't think that this class is going to necessarily live up to the hype that last year's did, because just last year was comically deep, and we're probably it's going to be hard to come by a defensive tackle group like that. But it is a lot of value on day 2, day 3.
Do you think there's a chance that the top would end up being better?
I don't think so. I don't. No? I think it's going to be, this is why there's a difference between last year and this year. I really think we're not going to have a Mason Graham. We're not going to have a Kenneth Grant level of prospect. We're not going to have that many guys that are worthy of going in the top 15. I think Peter Woods will be in the discussion. I think that Caleb Banks, if he lives up to the expectation, the potential that we're projecting for him, could live up to that expectation. He could end up being a top 10, top 5 kid even. But outside of that, it's a lot of good players, but nothing like, whoa, this is otherworldly. We have to invest in him in the first round.
If there's a big riser that ends up being a first-round pick, I assume that Christian Miller is your guy, that you would say is that guy in this class for you, of a guy that
I would say Christian Miller
perceivably comes out of nowhere and ends up being a first-round caliber player. That's probably Christian Miller.
Is it really out of nowhere for
who is talking about Christian Miller in the first-round conversation right now? Exactly, that's the point. That's the point. The majority is not having that conversation.
Well,
so yes, for you,
it's not out of nowhere. I am the driving force for the narrative. I just made it come out of somewhere.
My guy in the class that fits the description is a similar-ish background to your Christian Miller pick. Christian Miller was a former top 50 overall recruit who has kind of had to wait his turn a little bit at Georgia and been a part of the rotation. James Smith from Alabama would probably be my guy that I would bet on taking a massive jump. He's a little bit of a different body. Like he's 6'3", 305 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. But the kid has legit explosiveness, man. And when he fires off with good pad level, he is a hard player to stop. He was a part of the rotation last year, but now that that room is a little bit lighter going into 2025, I do think that like Tim Smith leaving and a couple of those guys, I do think that James Smith, who's going to be a true junior this year for Alabama, could be like a riser guy in this class.
Again, there's so many names that I have to get to, and he's one of them on the list of guys that I need to prioritize.
He's not a full, I think that he is similar in Christian Miller in the sense of like, he's not a full on guy right now, right? Like he's a flashy guy. Like the highs are like, okay, those highs are great, but it's about, can you play 30 plus snaps a game and do this on a consistent basis, or are you just going to continue to be a part-time player? Like that's just kind of the question that remains with guys like James Smith, with guys to your point of Christian Miller, like those types of guys. Can we talk real quick about how you hate Zane Durant?
I knew you were going to bring this up. I want to get to one more question that we had. Yes. Again, a reminder, if you are in the chat, send us a question or a thought on the upcoming college football season and the 2026 NFL draft. Send us whatever you're thinking. We're going to get to as many as possible as we've been doing so far. Connor Laws asked us, who's the next defensive tackle to be drafted from Notre Dame? You would have an easier time answering this before I would. I don't think that they have anybody on the radar this year. Probably really not next year.
So this year they'll have a couple guys in the drafts. The question is, will anybody be draftable, right? I mean, so you have Gabriel Rubio, who is expected to be a starter inside. You'll have Jason Onye, who's now back after missing the second half of the year with the team, being away from them. And you'll also have Jared Dawson, who's the transfer from Louisville. So I think, here's the take, Joe. I think if every one of those guys hits their upside, I think Jason Onye is the guy that's most likely drafted out of the three. But Onye's thing has been consistency, right? Like that's been his thing over the last couple of years. But I will say this, the first 4 games of the year last year before Onye was away from the team, he was snap to snap basis, probably their best interior defensive lineman. Like he was better than Riley Mills and Howard Cross, in my opinion, early on in the season. Now, obviously Riley Mills hit a string in that middle section of the season where he was really, really good for Notre Dame. But I think Jason Onye has upside. I think Gabriel Rubio, he's 6'5", 319 pounds, so he's big and physical. If he has a good year, I mean, it's possible he's a late round guy. I feel like Jared Dawson's in the same ballpark. Like Jared Dawson was really, really productive last year for Louisville on a snap-to-snap basis, but he's only going to be 6'1". He's only going to be 300 pounds. So he's a little bit of a smaller guy, but like for college standards, he's going to be a really dense interior defensive lineman who's going to play a good role for Notre Dame. So I don't know who the next guy is, to be honest. I'm high on Armel Mukum as like a younger guy as far as like his overall talent. That might be a 2027, 2028 conversation, but I think the best chance this year is either Jason Onye or a Gabriel Rubio, but both those guys have to have big years to be on the borderline draftable conversation.
Yeah, there's nobody current roster. You just dug into those specific guys, but like they're doing a lot better at recruiting a defensive line, I think, for future years. So we're probably not going to have like we did this past year where Howard Cross didn't get drafted. Riley Mills still hurt, got drafted. We don't have those bigger names.
High ends. You have more depth this year if you're Notre Dame. Like the defensive tackle room is deeper, but I don't think there's a guy like Riley Mills had 8 sacks before he got hurt last year, right? Like he was playing really good football for Notre Dame. I don't see there's a guy like that. I think you're probably looking at a room full of like priority free agent types, which in college standards, it's fine. That means that you could throw out good players that maybe just.
It means you have a deep class. You have a deep group if you've got multiple PFAs and then also a bunch of guys that aren't even declaring. So that's a great sign for Notre Dame. It's just there is no huge big dog name that we're used to seeing. Brian Kelly, I think, had more of an emphasis on recruiting defensive tackles, and it seems like Marcus Freeman's emphasis is more on edge and at linebacker and at safety.
Well, I mean,
different positions.
Well, Notre Dame was in the position they were of not having a lot of great defensive tackles, though, because Brian Kelly stopped recruiting great defensive tackles. I mean, it wasn't too far in the recent past that they had like Kurt Heinisch starting as a true freshman and like Myron Tungavaloa Amosa like deep in the rotation as a true freshman. Like, I think that there was times like Jerry Tillery was obviously a good player for Notre Dame, but that was a while ago now, too. Like we said, 2018 NFL draft pick, right? So like it's been a minute. Like Notre Dame just needs to overall. Brian Kelly included in this conversation, they need to get better at recruiting defensive tackle. Like they just do. They need to consistently be better. I will say this though, I'm excited for the defensive ends that Notre Dame's going to put into the NFL for the next couple years, man. Like if Boubacar Traore can get back healthy and then Bryce Young takes a step this year and Logan Thomas, like then we're talking about Notre Dame having some legit pass rushers from the outside, which here's a couple of trivia questions, Joe. Ready for the trivia question? I already gave you one technically. Jerry Tillery was the last defensive lineman to be a first-round pick from Notre Dame, okay? Who was the last defensive end to be drafted in the first round for Notre Dame?
Was it Justin Tuck?
No, second rounder.
Was it Bryant Young? No, he was
Bryant Young was
defensive
a D-tackle. Yeah.
Who was it?
Tackle. Ronaldo Wynn in like the 1996 or 1997 draft. Yeah, that was the last defensive end. Foskey went in the second round. Justin Tuck went in the second round. Like they've had a long here. Oh,
Stephon Tuitt was he was a 3-4 defensive end, so it's not really the same, but
yeah,
it's still pretty wild.
So he was also a second round pick as well. Yeah, so like that's the thing. So Notre Dame, the biggest droughts on them. I'm not trying to turn this into a Notre Dame show. We'll pivot in a second here. But corner, they haven't had a corner draft in the first round since the early 90s. I think that's going to change when Leonard Moore is eligible next year. But like, yeah, early 90s. You know, Notre Dame hasn't had a running back drafted in the first round since 1993.
Was that Bettis?
That was Bettis. Absolutely. That was Bettis. Yeah. They
had that doesn't surprise me because Notre Dame's had a lot of good running backs, but they haven't had like that crazy, just like geeked up, juiced elite athlete like they have with Jeremiah Love this year. And I think the expectation is that he will be a first rounder. I know a lot of people love to put out the qualifier of like if he stays healthy, but we'll see. Guys, a reminder.
That's everybody. Everybody if they stay healthy. Yeah.
A reminder, if you're in the chat, send us your questions about the 2026 NFL draft, the upcoming college football season. Let us know. We're trying to get to as many comments and questions as possible. In the meantime, while we're
Brian
waiting,
also mentioned Victor Abiamiri. He was also a day 2 draft pick, Brian, but a good mention on Victor Abiamiri. Yes, sir.
In the meantime, while we're waiting for some more questions from folks, I want to talk a little bit about this edge class. The edge class, not as sexy as last year's, like we're talking about here, but still has a lot of premier talent. There are going to be a lot of players that we're going to be able to discuss potentially in the top 10, 15, maybe even higher than that. I think what makes this class better than it did last year, it felt like we had James Pierce Jr. It felt like Abdul Carter was a huge question mark, but we acknowledged that he was a freakish athlete, but nobody knew what to expect with him. Nobody in their right mind was saying that he was going to be a top 3 pick. Nobody was there yet because everyone wanted to see, is this kid actually a defensive end or is he just going to be an athlete? He was at least in the first round conversation.
I remember I had a first round grade on him, but I had no idea what position he was going to play. Like I had basically him as a first round athlete, you know, that's what he was.
Right. Yeah. Just big, strong, kick-ass athlete. Yeah. But we didn't really know. We didn't know about Mike Green. We didn't know about Michael Williams. We didn't know about guys like Donovan Ezaraku. Like there were just all these other. Shamar Stewart was barely brought up in the conversation. There were all these other names that started. Jalen Walker. Hell, no one talked about Jalen Walker. It was a process for the season to build up. I think that this year there is a good grouping of players that could be edge one by the time that the NFL draft comes around. Keldric Faulk from Auburn, Denai Dennis Sutton from Penn State. I think that depending on how you want to characterize LT Overton could end up being in this discussion. TJ Parker additionally as well, I think needs to be brought up. And then Tyreek Sapp is also a player that has a lot of potential from Florida. So there's a pretty big list of players that are athletic, that were former high recruits, that have been productive, that just need to show a little bit more refinement, that just need to show a little bit better use of their hands and a little bit more consistency on a game-by-game basis.
Yeah, I would throw Mateo Uiagalelei into that grouping probably at the top. I'm not there with Tyreek Sapp. I like Tyreek Sapp. I don't think Tyreek Sapp is I don't see a rise to a first rounder, but like we'll see if that happens or not. I don't know. I mean, nothing's crazy. Did you mention deny Dennis Sutton in
I
that
did. I
top
did.
group? Okay.
I don't think
Yeah,
he's going to be edge one. I don't think it's going to happen because he kind of gives me those vibes where he gives me like Michael Williams vibes, where he's not the same player. I'm not making the comparison, but I'm making the comparison in the sense that big, long, physical athlete seems like he's doing the right things, but just doesn't finish. Like Dennis Sutton needs to finish, and he needs to start racking up sacks. Could he? Absolutely, but there's something off there. The vibe's a little bit off.
I get that. I will say he was a lot better down the stretch of the season. Like early in the year, I was like, nope, that kid's just an athlete. He's not a football player. Like that was kind of my take on Dennis Sutton. I do think down the stretch, like Joe, he was good against Notre Dame, man. Like he was really. I'm not talking about like that interception, which was like wild.
No,
like,
that was the best game that I graded on him was the Notre Dame game.
Yeah. But like he was unblockable in that game, and it wasn't just like unblockable against true freshman Anthony Knapp before he got knocked out of the football game. Like he was tearing Emil Wagner apart a little bit at right tackle too, where you're just like, okay, all right. So I think down the stretch of the season, deny Dennis Sutton really took a step forward. I'm excited to see now that he is the guy in the room, right? Like you know who the guy is now. Every team is going to be like, hey, 33 is not going to beat us this week, and he now take that next step to being a difference maker. He was a really good player last year. He had like 8 sacks. Like he was very productive, but most of that production came down the stretch of the season. Can he parlay that into early season success, the end of the year success that he had this year? So he's definitely in that conversation. I think he's the wild card, deny Dennis Sutton, but I would say that I think that he has one of the most likely outcomes to potentially be in that riser because I mean, he might be the most physically gifted guy in that group, right? I mean, LT
I feel like
Overton,
we've been saying that for 2 years, though. Like, sure. I feel like we've been saying for 2 years that he's the most physically gifted.
Sure, but we're also doing the same thing with LT Overton right now, where it's like LT Overton had like 3 sacks this year. You know, where it's just like,
it's true.
At some point, production does need to come, and deny Dennis Sutton has been more productive than a LT Overton has at this point. Like he had 8 sacks last year, you know. So I don't know. I think a couple of those guys are going to rise a little bit. Keldric Faulk, I think, is the best kept secret in college football just because Auburn hasn't been good the last couple of years. Like, Keldric Faulk's really good, man. He reminds me a lot of Greg Rousseau. Like, I watch, every time I watch Keldric Faulk, I'm like, that's Greg Rousseau again. Like, it is. Maybe he won't be a 10, 12, 13 sack a year guy, but like, I bet you he'll be an 8 sack a year guy and be a really good run defender and move around the defensive line a ton. Like, I really do like Keldric Faulk a lot. If there was a couple wild cards, I'll throw out a couple wild cards real quick. Okay. So one, actually, quick shout to Mateo Uiagalelei. I think that he's just rock solid. I don't know if he has the ceiling of those guys, but like he's big, 6'5", 270, speed to power converter, decent hands to flatten, like pretty good stuff there. Wild cards. Boubacar Traore from Notre Dame was one I mentioned, Joe. If he didn't get hurt, he was on pace for 16 tackles for loss and 10 sacks last year for Notre Dame. Like he was going to have a huge year. Coming back from the knee injury against Louisville, so we'll see what the recovery timeline it looks like. My 2 ones that I want to mention, though, and this is the biggest one I want to mention. Will Helt, the Purdue transfer at Clemson. That is one guy that I have a star next to his name.
You're that high on him?
So like a top 100 player right now, yes, high on him. But I think that he could be a top 50 player pretty quickly, dude. He's 6'6", 265, still looks skinny. He's got like that Joey Bosa frame where like he's strong and long, but like also he can still add weight if you wanted him to. He is now on a defensive line where last year you knew who the guy was down the stretch of the season. You're like 15. We got to block 15 if you're going against Purdue. This year, you have TJ Parker on the other side of you. You have Peter Woods. You have DeMonte Kate. You got Sammy Brown blitzing from every spot behind you as well. Like, you cannot just look at Will Helt and say, we need to throw 2 blockers at you. Like, he's going to get a whole lot of one-on-one opportunities, and I think he has a chance to be a huge riser in this class. Another guy, a quick mention, Bo Atkinson from North Carolina. Or, sorry, that transferred from Ohio State.
Yes, to Ohio State. My only thing with Bo Atkinson, I'm a little off about expectations for him because he's he was like a rotational pass rusher at North Carolina. Why did he so abruptly leave North Carolina to go Ohio State? And does he suddenly step right
he's good.
in a bigger?
He's good.
No, but wait. But does he get a bigger role at Ohio State, or is he still this DPR that they're using him as? I don't know. I just like he was only coming really in on third downs.
I know that Ohio State threw a lot of money at that kid, and I don't think they threw a lot of money at that kid to come in and be in a second stringer. That's all I'll say. I think he could be what people wanted Jack Sawyer to be. Right? Like, oh, Jack, this top 50 guy or whatever. And then Jack Sawyer goes in the 4th round. You're just like, yeah, that's always what Jack Sawyer was. I think that this kid is that. Not the bendiest dude, but he's strong and super explosive, and he understands how to flatten. And I think that he has a chance to be a big-time riser in this class, Bo Atkinson. Yes. Not as quite as high as Will Helt. I like Helt better than Atkinson right now, but yeah, I think that he has a chance. Do think he has a chance.
Guys, reminder, send us in the chat questions, thoughts about the upcoming season for college football and the 2026 NFL draft. We got one question here from Brian Maffey, favorite G5 player in the class. We've been asked the FCS question a bunch of times. Who would you say for G5? Would the Toledo safety, whose name is escaping me, probably be
Emmanuel
the first?
McNeil-Warren. Yeah, I like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Yeah, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren would be one for sure. I'm a huge fan of Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I am trying to scroll up on guys I've evaluated and see how many P5 guys there are.
Yeah, there's not the problem that FCS, you can kind of get into this world where a guy is from South Dakota or Montana and he stays at the school, usually at the G5 level. These guys get found, and they get found quickly because these Power 4 teams are all facing these G5 teams. In the minute that they like flash even just like a little bit of talent, they're digging all in and they're going after him. I mean, the Bowling Green kid that went to Kentucky, the offensive lineman who's not very good, is an example of this. The Rice kid who went to Ohio State, who's going to start, is fine. Probably would have been better off staying at Rice. Probably I don't think
financially no, but
for
as a player, yes, I agree with you.
He's not going to get smoked as bad as he's going to in the Big Ten this upcoming year, and we'll see how his draft stock ends up doing. But the G5 guys, the minute that they square off with a P4 team, he immediately gets circled. They immediately get highlighted. I implore anybody, it's actually kind of a fun exercise, Ryan, to go and look at where guys landed from the G5. Most of the time you can go realize, oh, hey, they played the G5 team, the Power 4 school that they landed at. They played the G5 team that he originally started at because they face off them. They spend the whole week preparing tape and they go, hey, that kid's pretty damn good. Why is he stuck at this MAC program? And then they entice him to leave.
Not quite that lower level of a conversation, but Notre Dame does that with transfer portal kids. Like
Malachi Fields.
Malachi Fields, they're like, oh, Riley Leonard. Like, they're like, okay, I saw that guy. Let's bring that guy to Notre Dame. You know what I mean? Like, that happens all the time, dude. It 100% does. You know what stinks, Brian, if you're still listening to this conversation, you know what really stinks, Joe, is I'm working down my list. I'm like, okay, I see the Toledo kid, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, really talented safety. I'm moving up, and I'm like, okay, I got you a guy. Oh, Cincinnati's not in G5 anymore. And then I'm like, oh, SMU. Oh, SMU's not in G5 anymore. These damn teams keep moving up. That's hurt the G5. Should have left it how it was. I'm just kidding. I'm not that old of a man of that take. But it is really frustrating, though. I mean, there's several Cincinnati kids I would love to talk about. There's several SMU kids that I'd be willing to talk about. Boise State's still a G5, right? So, their offensive tackle, Cage Casey, is a left tackle.
I like Cage Casey. I think he's going to be a good
He's a day 3 guard. He's a day 3 guard. I think he's a little limited lateral mobility, but yeah.
Right. Uh-huh. Let me throw in there on him. If I'm not saying that he's going to go in the first round. If we were willing to hype up, oh my God, who's the North Dakota State kid who just went to the Seahawks? Why am I
Gray Zabel.
If we were willing to hype up Gray Zabel for what he was as an FCS tackle, who wasn't super flexible, but just was strong as shit, was just super freaking strong, was going to run your ass over. Cage Casey can make an argument for me as a 3rd round, 2nd round pick as a guard for a team that just needs like a power-based scheme, just run people over. I would go all in on that.
Yeah, I think that he is very solid at a lot of things, but I don't necessarily see like an elite traits, right? Like that's why I think he's a guard on the next level. Like I just don't see great foot quickness. I don't see great lateral mobility, but I you could sell me that Cage Casey is starting inside a guard in the NFL is like an average to above average starter at some point in his career. So yeah. Oh, here's like an interesting one. So last offseason, there was a Troy offensive tackle named Derek Graham. Okay. Derek Graham. I don't know if you remember this kid, Joe. Derek Graham transferred from Troy to Texas A&M. Okay. Spent some time at Texas A&M, and he actually transferred out because I'm assuming he probably wasn't starting at Texas A&M. So before last year, he ended up actually transferring. So he went from Troy to Texas A&M to Tulane. Okay. So he's at Tulane. I think that kid is a borderline draftable offensive tackle. Like strong, efficient footwork, solid explosiveness. Like I think that kid is a borderline draftable offensive tackle. So Derek Graham, if I could throw out like a kind of a sleeper guy, I guess, I think that he is pretty talented.
It's kind of funny to realize like the amount of talent that comes out of this Tulane program. They recruit surprisingly well. They also don't try to hold anybody hostage. They seem pretty excited when guys leave and they end up representing the program. I'd be willing to invest in any kid that's coming from Tulane. They should move up. If there's a G5 team that moves up, I think it should be Tulane.
Yeah, I don't know if they're are they a big enough pool, I guess, for like a Power 4 conference to want them is like is a conversation, you know, like because it's not just like, hey guys, we want to move up. It's like somebody needs to want you to move up too. You know what I mean?
Obviously.
Like you just can't. But you know what's interesting is I think that a couple of those schools that fit that same description you were talking about though is SMU's another school. And I know they're a Big 12 school now or an ACC school, excuse me. So they have a unique pool because they can say, oh, come play Power 4 football. Sure. But even before that, SMU attracted talents because I think that they're in recruiting hotbeds and ultimately
in Texas.
Yeah. It's like SMU might only get the, number 85 player from the state of Texas, but it's like, hey guys, Texas puts out a lot of talent though. That number 85 player is still pretty dang good, right? So they might get the perceived quote unquote leftovers from Texas A&M, like those types of schools. But the fact that they're in that hotbed, and also SMU, for instance, has a lot of money to throw around, right? Like they have money, so that makes it a lot easier to recruit as well. Tulane's in the same way though. They're in Louisiana. They're right by, they're in the SEC hotbed. Like they have pull from a really good hotbed of talent. And I think that is why you're consistently see them just kind of overachieve a little bit compared to some expectations, because I do think they have some underrated talent that usually goes there.
Folks, again, reminder, if you are in the chat, send us your questions. We're going to be wrapping up around 10 minutes or so. So we got time for like 2 more questions that get sent to us. Thoughts on the upcoming 2026 NFL draft, thoughts on the upcoming college football season, whatever it is, we will get to whatever thoughts are thrown in there. So far, great contributions from people that have been watching and have been tuning in the entire time. I got one more edge guy to bring up. David Bailey from Stanford is a total wild card to me. He is super raw. I don't know if because he goes to Texas Tech and he's on an actual competitive team, if maybe he ends up being a little bit better. I think it's really unhinged that he doesn't wear any tape or have any gloves. He's just raw arming it, and he's just going after people. He's got burst. He's got the ability to generate power in an instant. He does not know how to use his hands, though. Like that's the tough conversation. So I have a late 4th on him right now. If he rose to a 2nd round pick, totally could see it. But there is a lot of work that needs to happen. Might be too short of a window of him transferring from Stanford to Texas Tech, not having like a real full off season to develop. Might be a little hard for him, but he's interesting, and he's a name that pops up a lot when we talk about just college football defensive linemen that are going to be important. He was also a very highly ranked transfer portal kid when he hopped in.
He was also a highly ranked recruit. Like he was a top 100 recruit that ended up going to Stanford, which was a very interesting decision, obviously, at the time. And he's been pretty productive for the opportunities he's had. he is so athletic, but he's extremely raw, man. Like I just don't think he understands fully what he's doing as a pass rusher and utilizing his hands and pass rush plan, like those types of things. Can I say something that might be slightly disrespectful, Joe? Just slightly, not towards you, but
That
just in
doesn't
general.
that never stops you asking that question, but go ahead.
I was kind of mad he's going to Texas Tech.
Why, you wanted him to go to Notre Dame?
No. I mean, that would have been cool if he would have went to Notre Dame, but like, no, I just wanted him to go to a bigger program, like a little bit more of a high end P4 school to get really good coaching. Like that's really what I wanted. I don't know.
That is fair, but like
Yeah.
he entered so late in the process. Like, was Georgia going to add him, and he would have gotten onto the field?
I mean, they added the Army kid. Georgia added the Army kid.
That kid's younger.
Sure.
And at the same time, I don't think that he's going to get onto the field probably that much. Like he's going to be a rotational guy.
Yeah, that's fair. I really wanted David Bailey, who only has 1 year of eligibility left. I wanted him to go to a place where I know that he's going to get really good coaching. And that might end up being Texas Tech. I don't know anything about their defensive line coach. Zero about the Texas Tech defensive line coach. I don't even know who it is, right? So maybe he's a really good defensive line coach. But if it's similar to what we've seen the last couple years, a couple of the Texas Tech guys that have come out, Joe, have not been great technicians. You think about like Tyree Wilson and Steve Linton and like a couple of these guys, right, who have spent some time at Texas Tech. So I'm hopeful that he takes that step, but I would have been more assured that he would take that step if I think that he went to a situation where I can kind of predict that he would get higher end coaching, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
I think that's fair. By the way, folks, let's get one more question. Let's get one more person. Send us one more question in. We will answer that question to close out. I think it's fair. What are your overall expectations for Texas Tech this year? I'm pretty high on what they can do. I think that the Big 12 is wide open. I don't think that the typical characters are not the ones that are going to be the best in the Big 12. I think that Arizona State's probably going to be great because Kenny Dillingham's a good coach and Levitt's coming back. We understand the importance of having one of the better quarterbacks in the conference, if not the best quarterback in the conference returning. It's only going to pay dividends. Baylor with Sawyer Robinson, what are they? Colorado is always a question mark. There is a swinging pendulum of outcomes that happens with Colorado, especially with that entire offense.
They might suck. This year, Colorado. I don't know.
Utah might be ass as well this year with the distraction of the looming retirement with Kyle Whittingham. I really think that Texas Tech finally, after multiple years of just spending crap loads of money every single offseason on the transfer portal, that like now is when it's going to pay off.
I am a little worried, and I think that you made one good. You made a couple good points, but the one point that I think was the best was relax. The one point that I think you made that is best is that they are in the Big 12, which is such just a turbulent conference that probably 6 different teams could win it in 2025, and I wouldn't be shocked if any one of the 6 won it. Like, I would not be shocked if Kansas State won the Big 12. I would not be shocked if, you mentioned Arizona State. I wouldn't be shocked if Texas Tech won it. I wouldn't be shocked if Utah won it, even though I think that you have it's a legit concern about, the timeline of Willingham, even though I think
great offensive line, though, is fantastic.
Yeah. And I like their quarterback for like that league. Like I think Devin Dampier could be a lot of fun in that league. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying he's a draft pick, but I'm saying that he's a dynamic runner at least, right? So like that's cool. But so I mean, there's a few teams that could potentially win that league potentially. I mean, you can even see Kansas has like these weird years where like they're all of a sudden pretty good again, right? So like who knows, right? It's a very wide open league. But I will say this, it works once in a while. But a lot of the teams that completely overhaul rosters in the portal, a lot of them don't end up working out, man, in the first year of that.
Big talking point that Blake and I have all the time on Rafido.
I mean, it's real, though.
Wait, but Texas Tech's been doing it for multiple years, and this is probably like I think that they've built enough of a foundation for them to not be Florida State bad. You know, like I think that there is a baseline.
I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're going to suck like Florida State did this year. I remember, I remember we had a conversation on this channel. Literally, remember I said that I thought that Florida State was going to be the team that like took a huge step back. Now I didn't think they were going to go 2-10. You know what I mean? Like I thought maybe they would go like 6-6 or something like that, like 7-5. Like I thought they were going to take like that type of a step back. But yeah, no, they're not going to suck like that. Like there's no chance. I will say just kind of looking at their depth chart, I think their defensive line is going to be really good. Like we mentioned Lee Hunter, we mentioned David Bailey. It at least is a very talented group. I think that the quarterback's fun. Baron Morton, like he's fun, right? I think that Quentin Joyner is a kid that I really like.
I really like his tape. He's one of my highest rated running backs this upcoming year. He needed more touches last year. I think if he gets more touches this year, he could be leading rusher in the conference. He's that explosive.
I don't know what to expect from this offensive line. They got Hunter Zambrano out of Illinois State starting at right tackle. I like Hunter Zambrano, but like outside of that, I don't know if you've seen the Howard Sampson kid that they got the transfer from North Carolina, but that kid reeks, dude. Like he's really, really bad.
They got Cash Cleveland from Colorado too, the center, who was a freshman All-American.
Who made freshman All-American. And then what's the other kid that was a freshman for them? The Seton kid, right?
Jordan Seton.
Remember when he was throwing shade at him for entering the portal? And I'm like, bro, seriously? You're the one throwing shade about these things? Like,
we can't have offensive linemen throwing shade, man. We can't be doing that.
Especially when he flipped like 3 different times in his recruiting process. Like, what are we even talking about, Jordan?
Yes.
Like
he couldn't make up his mind.
Bro. Like, what are you talking about, man? So, yeah, I think they can be good. I don't know if I think they'll at least be 8-4. Like, at least. I think they'll at least be 8-4, maybe 9-3. I mean, first and foremost, like, what wins the conference? You know, I mean, I know it's conference record, but like, are we talking about a 10-2 type of team? Or are we talking about 11-1 team, 9-3 team? Like, that's kind of where things get a little bit interesting.
So. Nobody's good enough to win the conference at 11-1. I think it's going to probably be a 10-2.
You say that. And then Arizona State's going to go 11-1, and it's going to tear you upside down.
I mean, they could. They have a winnable schedule. Let's get to this last question. We'll close out from Brian. Does Nico stay at UCLA for more than 1 year? I mean, after the comical path that he has gone on, yeah. I think that the answer to that is yes, he stays for – because – and I've said this to you. We've talked about this multiple times. He would be a moron to try to declare for this upcoming draft. Like, even if he goes and throws for a similar stat line to Shedeur Sanders, and that's where the comparisons are going to come into play. I find it hard to believe that Nico is going to blow anybody away with his personality during the pre-draft interviews, because from what you hear, he's not exactly like a stand-up, stick-out type of a leader. He seems like he's very passive, especially the way that his dad has kind of manipulated things. And I think a lot of NFL teams, as scared as they were of Deion Sanders, where he didn't really meddle, Nico's dad meddled a ton. I don't think anyone 100%. Wants to touch that. No one does.
Well, the one weird thing about this Shedeur Sanders situation is obviously this is not the full reason that he fell, but it was kind of weird to hear after the fact that one of the big interesting things was that apparently, this isn't breaking news, like it's been out there, but so apparently Deion was like in a lot of Shedeur's meetings with these teams and stuff, and that like kind of rubs some teams the wrong way. It's just kind of like, all right, helicopter parents, you know what I mean? Like that's very strange. The Nico thing is just so strange to me. Like, first and foremost, he wasn't that good last year for Tennessee. Like, I mean, he started out good, but he wasn't.
He had some flashes.
Good.
He had a couple flashes.
Oh, dude, he's crazy talented. Like, there's no doubt about that. But I mean, first and foremost, he needs to take a massive step forward as a player. Like, massive step forward. If he takes a huge step, can he declare? It's possible. You know, it's interesting, Joe, and we've talked about this on this channel before. But the NIL landscape is actually a blessing for NFL evaluators right now, for the NFL scouts out there. I've literally talked to a current NFL scout, and I know we've had this conversation on this channel before, that said these kids getting the availability to make money has given us so much more insight into how they handle money, right? And I'm like, I get that, right? Like finally give a kid a couple $1 million in his pocket. Now you see how he responds to having that type of money. You know, is he wasteful with his money? Does he dog it now? Does he not have the drive anymore? Does it make him more driven because he wants more money? You know what I mean? Like all those things are going to start to show themselves more and more in this current, I don't even call it NIL landscape, in this current pay for play landscape that we now know. It's going to really pull the curtain back on a lot of different situations. So it's going to be interesting to evaluate, but honestly, like if you're an NFL scout right now, reading all the stuff you just read about Nico, do you want any part of that?
No.
Do you want a part of that? Like, I don't want a part of that right now.
For Absolutely a position that needs a strong-willed leader, having a guy who is manipulated so easily by his dad No, absolutely not signing up for that. It becomes a distraction. If I had to deal with even 10% of what was alleged was happening, getting pulled out of practice, getting pulled out of NIL engagements that he was supposed to do, and calling in and screaming and all those things. None of that. No one wants to deal with that. No, everyone just wants to have your quarterback who shows up to work every single day and is ready to help the team get better. None of that is worth handling.
You know what was the worst part, right? I don't even care about, well, I should say I don't care about him wanting to renegotiate his contract and stuff. I actually whatever, dude. It's his right to make money now in this current landscape. And ultimately, Joe, if there's a market out there, that's how people get raises, right? Like what the market says you are is what you are, right? And maybe they misread the market. I 100% agree that they did misread the markets. So I don't think strategically it was good practice by the dad and the agents. But I will say this, the biggest red flag in the whole situation was after everything went down and everything went public that wasn't supposed to get public, and Josh Heupel and the Tennessee staff got pissed, the worst thing that kid decided to do, and his dad told him to do this, but the worst thing that he decided to do
not show up to practice.
Yep. That right there, I'm like, out. I'm done. And you know what Tennessee did too? Their AD, what's his name? Danny White, right? Danny White, the AD for Tennessee. You know what he also said? He's like, we're out. We're out. And NFL scouts should feel exactly the same. After seeing that, we're out, dude. No, there's no.
If a college team was willing to do it, then an NFL team should be willing to do it as well. 100%. Plain and simple.
100%. And ultimately, you are not a professional athlete technically yet. Right. I think eventually it will happen. Eventually this is going to be a job, right? There's going to be more legal structure to it. But ultimately, you decided as a 20-year-old kid, while your team is grinding, you opted to just leave them out to dry. You did. You left them out to dry and you went out the door. And you were manipulated, absolutely. But at some point, no matter if it's a cultural thing, a family dynamic, all those types of things, eventually you need to stand up and take accountability for your actions. You have to. And he did not do that. So, it was a horrible display of leadership, a horrible display of just personal understanding, personal reflection. It was just as soon as he missed that practice, I was like, done, bro. I'm done. I don't even want to talk to you. You're done. You're done.
All right, buddy. That's good enough to end us on. Thanks for tuning in. We are going to be back next Wednesday at noon live on the A to Z Sports Film Room channel. If you haven't done